Here to start your day the right way. It's Marv and Rauh in the morning.
Wake up. It's a happy Tuesday right here on Marv and Rauh in the morning. The best way to start your day. Right here, we're talking everything top sports, and it's going to be a fun episode today. Nick Marovets, Christian Rauh here in good morning. Nick, what a wild thing. We were talking right before we started the show here. I did a lot of driving yesterday, and I'm not going to lie. I needed a little extra coffee this morning, but some of these topics, we're not going to need any introduction. There are definitely a lot of things to discuss today.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of getting up early, feeling the morning a little bit. But once you roll into this sports, like this cycle that we've got right in front of us for today, there is no need to sip on the coffee a little extra. Like it brings its own juice.
Yeah, let's get right into it. A lot of stuff to talk about. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, building up the channel. Love the energy and the support you got already from the first ever day at Marv and Rauh in the morning. Love what we're seeing already. So really appreciate everybody showing up and excited for this new venture here on this episode. But let's get right to it. Let's get started with Monday Night Football last night. And the Philadelphia Eagles have now lost 3 in a row. They lost the Chargers 22-19 in overtime. And this is a team that everybody thought was unbeatable last year. Of course, they lost people in free agency. And there's been some drama when it comes to, the offense, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. Well, Jalen Hurts threw 4 interceptions in this game, and they wind up only still losing by 3 points, taking it to overtime. Justin Herbert, 139 yards. That's it passing. Omari and Hampton comes back. He gets 56 yards on the ground. A.J. Brown gets 100 yards receiving on 6 receptions. But the biggest takeaway here is that this Philadelphia Eagles team has now lost 3 in a row. This is not the same Eagles team as we saw last year.
No, it's not. And I was just taking a look at the standings here for the NFC East, and they're still on top of the Cowboys by 2 whole games, 8-5, 6-6. That's just really a testament to what this division is. And while the Eagles, aren't in the best spot right now, and we'll go over their schedule here in just in a second, they are still in a very decent position. Like they can turn this around. They haven't lost any ground as far as making the playoffs or anything. They're not going to be a 1 seed probably by, I guess the Rams are 10-3, Seahawks are 10-3, so they've got a little bit of ground to make up in that department. But they'll get into the dance, I'm sure. And I guess I could be wrong, but you never want to count the Eagles entirely out.
No, for sure. And you look at the rest of their schedule, it's kind of easy. You got the Commanders, 2 games left. You only have 3 games left in the season. 2 of them are against the Commanders, and then in the middle of them, you have the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. So that one's obviously going to be tough. Buffalo's trying to build themselves into being a playoff contender themselves. But assuming, and then, of course, you have 4 games. You got the Raiders still as well. So the Raiders, that's not a hard game whatsoever, although Pete Carroll might be coaching for his job. So take that for what you will. But you have to think that you can probably easily get 3 of the 4 wins easily.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
11-6.
Split with the Commanders is like, that's a given. They could probably get both of those. And then it's really down to the Bills game.
Yeah, and with Jaden Daniels, I don't think Jaden Daniels on the Commanders should play another snap this season. So you're probably going against Marcus Mariota on both of those games for the Eagles. There looks like there's just a lot of unorganized play in relationships with the Eagles this year. We've seen it over and over again. Sirianni continues to talk about it. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts continues to talk about it. There's a tweet, like a viral thing that went out around the game yesterday. And Jalen Hurts, right before halftime, was struggling to find his helmet to get on the field for a snap before, I think it was 10 seconds. I think they were going to knee it. I don't think it was anything crazy, but he couldn't find his helmet. Saquon Barkley had to give him his helmet so they could go out there and finish the half. And, it's not something that obviously impacted the game, but that type of moment just shows how disorganized you are in the middle of the football game when you should be completely focused. And that's not a Jalen Hurts issue. That's obviously a lot of the support staff, but it sounds like it's just a core issue with Philadelphia this year. They're just not on the same page. And when you're looking at what they did last year, everybody talked about how amazing they were, how dominant they were against the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year. This doesn't even feel like the same hemisphere when it comes to this type of team that this team is this year.
It, to me, and I could be off base on this, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But to me, it feels like this season for the Eagles is more about driving the stake home on the tush push than it is anything else. Like somehow, oddly enough, they're more concerned about proving their point with this one play than they are by winning games. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I guess if that's the hill you're going to die on, if you're Philly, like I get it. It's kind of your play and everybody hates it. But as far as like the season as a whole, yeah, it's like a classic Super Bowl hangover. Like they're just struggling against teams like the Bears and even the Giants. I guess it's a divisional foe, but that's not a team that this Eagles team last season would have struggled with, right? And this is just typical to me. I mean, the disorganization certainly carried over into the game too, which was it's funny. I'm not gonna lie, that one play.
Oh yeah.
It was, yeah. This Eagles team it's just not what it was last season.
This team is technically like a game and a half ahead of the Cowboys because the Cowboys have that tie, so it gets kind of weird here. But I'll look when it's all said and done. Of course, the Eagles have 8 wins, the Cowboys have 6, and that's what really is going to matter the most. When you look at the Cowboys' schedule, their schedule is not very crazy to finish off the season either. They have the Vikings, the Chargers, the Commanders, and then the Giants. So what we saw from the Chargers in this game, they obviously look good. They're a playoff contender. And then we talked about the Eagles schedule with the Bills being the only one on that schedule is kind of tough. You could probably make the argument that both teams could easily win 3 of the next 4 games handily. If you're the Cowboys, you are hoping that the Eagles continue to slide down here, split one with the Commanders and lose to the Bills. And if the Cowboys win out, then you're talking about a potential Cowboys taking over the Eagles to win this NFC East. And the Eagles then, if the Eagles only take 2 of the next 4 and the Cowboys win out, the Eagles are not in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. Right now it's not ideal.
Insane. Absolutely insane. What do you take from this from a guy like Saquon Barkley? Is this like a Madden curse thing? I mean, he hasn't had the best season. Obviously, he had a pretty decent night last night. He got a nice large touchdown, 52-yarder. He was 122 yards rushing on the ground. I don't know. Do you buy that Madden curse thing? Is this a team effort when it comes to Madden curses?
I think, I personally buy into the Madden curse a little bit. My thing with Saquon is that he's still in a very good spot. Like this Eagles team is still a great spot for him, even if it hasn't been the best season of all time. We know what he did at New York, right? Like I think he's a very, very talented back. He does probably benefit a lot from what the Eagles offensive line is. This isn't a situation where I would say it's like, well, I'm ready to move on. Like you won your ring. You can get a little comfortable here. You can take a year off. It's not the end of the world because you're still in probably one of the best spots as that running back with that offensive line. If you could pick anywhere for Saquon else to be, where would you say he goes? Because I think this is the best spot for him.
Yeah, I think he should finish his career in Philly. Perfectly, to be honest with you, I think it fits perfectly. But when you look about what happened last year, obviously the 2,005 yards. I mean, we all expected at least some sort of regression. We didn't expect him to have another 2,000-yard season. But the fact that he hasn't yet to reach 1,000 yards, he's 12th in the NFL right now at 862. Only has 218 carries on the season. The biggest thing I take from here compared to last year is he averaged almost 6 yards a carry. He's averaging only 4 yards, like even. So he's almost a whole 2 yards behind when it comes to carries. That's a lot of things pointing at the Eagles' offensive line. There's some issues there. I saw Troy Aikman was pointing at something about Jason Kelsey being on the sideline and said the Eagles should call him to come back. 1, he's 40 pounds lighter. And 2, we already saw this with Frank Ragnow with the Detroit Lions. It's already too late for that. That was just something for another narrative, but no way should they do that. I think he's very happy with his garage beer.
Yeah, I think he's totally good with being in the position we're in with the mics and having fun talking with his brother. I mean, I would love to see him come back, but I don't think it'd be the same level of production.
Oh, absolutely not. No way. Speaking of brand new production, and this is something that I think we've finally been hoping to see for a long time, whether maybe you aren't, maybe there's a complete other side. I'm sure there is a complete other side of people who are not expecting it, but Shedeur Sanders is starting to look good in Cleveland, and he's finally getting a shot as the Browns starting quarterback. And Kevin Stefanski reported that Shedeur Sanders will be QB1 the rest of the way this season. He's finally going to get a shot over Gabriel, over, of course, Deshaun Watson, who was designated to return. Shedeur Sanders is going to take the gig the rest of the way. And look, he looked really good in the game this last week. The only reason they lost is on a 2-point conversion play where they had him off the field. That's a coaching issue by far. That's not a Shedeur Sanders issue. And, say what you want about Shedeur Sanders when it comes to the drama behind it. Some people don't like the way he talks to media. The guy can ball out. The guy can play really good. And we saw it at Colorado how he could play. And now he's finally starting to show. And if you can get a franchise type quarterback in Cleveland, something that they haven't had. I mean, how many times do you see the funny things of people in the tailgates wearing jerseys that have tails because they're all different nameplates about the same jersey, from Tim Couch all the way probably to Shedeur Sanders now? This is interesting. And they did lose in a quick game to the Tennessee Titans. They lost 31-29. Again, that 2-point conversion was the biggest deal. But Shedeur Sanders looked good here, and it's an exciting time for him and potentially having their answer at quarterback for the future.
That would be bold. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the biggest Shedeur fan. I was actually actively sitting here trying to make a comparison to a Dancing with the Stars star from this last season. The best thing I could come up with was Whitney, although I don't necessarily think that's the best play. The argument was that Whitney is getting better every week. I thought she was good when she came into the competition. I'm just looking at this Kevin Stefanski quote. Yes, he has constantly and consistently gotten better. I feel good about where his development is heading. And the reason I use Whitney is because the public narrative around him has been so harsh, is maybe not the right word, but certainly loud.
I think harsh is a good word.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those where he's not helping it either, and he has to be really, really good. Like, he has to come into this role and play at probably an unfair level just to keep the heat a little bit cooler. I'm not saying it's fair, but he's also going into press conferences acting as a mime, right? Like, he's kind of stoking his own fire here. So, look at what happened to Whitney on Dancing with the Stars. Just unfair elimination just because of the public narrative. I hope that doesn't happen for Shedeur. But looking at the rest of their schedule, he's just going to have to get it done. He's got a Bears team that'll be a fun showdown between he and Caleb, and then a Bills team that is going to be challenging. I'm not sure. Maybe we should take a look at the Bills schedule because they seem to be playing everyone we're talking about. Right. And then the Steelers and the Bengals, they're like, he has gettable games in this lineup, but he has to step up and end this season strong. So the narrative going into next year isn't too negative to cause problems all offseason is kind of where I was going with that point.
Cleveland's been in the gutter for how long? I mean, it feels like it's been forever that Cleveland has just haven't found themselves in a spot. They were in the playoffs a few years ago when that crazy game against the Steelers. I remember that does feel like a decade ago. And honestly, I said a few years ago, it might be closer to a decade because I think Roethlisberger was the quarterback in that game. But Shedeur Sanders went for 23 for 42, 364, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. When I look at this box score right away, of course, the almost 400 yards pops out to me. But if you want to nitpick, and you're definitely going to have people who nitpick, being close to 50% completion is not going to cut it. You got to obviously be a lot better than that. On the flip side, though, your number one overall pick, Cam Ward, was 50% as well in that game, 14 for 28. So this is just a young rookie quarterback thing, trying to understand the game, trying to get better. What is the expectation for a Cleveland Browns quarterback? We just mentioned it. People are walking around with so many nameplates on. Like, that's the thing about the Cleveland Browns quarterback. You don't talk about like, Bernie Kosar is the best quarterback in Cleveland Browns history or whatever like that. No, you're talking about the Johnny Manziels, the Tim Couches, the Kelly Holcombs. You're talking about all those that are on the nameplates of all the fans that are wearing them over and over again, because there's been 80 quarterbacks in the last 13 seconds for the Cleveland Browns. So having Shedeur Sanders hopefully step up and become maybe an answer for them, so they don't have to use another draft pick on a quarterback early next season. I mean, even if they just think they have an answer, say we're going to roll with him one full season, see what they got, build some things around him. That could get Cleveland out of the gutter. It's not like the AFC North is world beaters this year. Cleveland has an opportunity with a good quarterback and a solid surrounding cast to get themselves in the postseason. Probably any other division, this is the best one to do it in.
Yeah, I mean, what would you say that the rest of the season, the expectation isn't necessarily wins and losses, but more so actually how he plays? Because when you look at standings, I mean, they're 3-10. They do. I feel like it comes down to actual play, not wins and losses.
Oh, for sure. And honestly, you can definitely hope play the entire game when it comes to you want to lose because you want to have a better draft pick. There's no lottery in the NFL yet. I think that's coming eventually, but there's still the tank issues when it comes to teams. And they just lost to a team that was predicted to be the number 1 seed in the Tennessee Titans. Now they still have a game on them. They're 3-10. Titans are 2-11. But no, I don't think wins mean anything. They're already eliminated from the playoffs. You going 7-10, you winning out and going 7-10 and being in the middle of the pack doesn't help you for the future. But if that happens, that obviously guarantees you that you've had for Shedeur Sanders. If Shedeur Sanders leads you to 4-0, and some of those wins are against big teams like playoff contending teams, you mentioned the Bills. Who's some of the other games that you mentioned that are playing? They have
Bengals
the Bears,
in there.
who are number 1 seed in the NFC. Steelers, Bengals. Yeah, I mean, those are 2 divisional games. If you found a way to win out, that's huge. That changes the entire narrative. No one's talking about the Browns need a quarterback if you go 7-10 next year or the end of the season. But if you still go 3-14 and you show that Shedeur Sanders can do exactly that same stat line, maybe his completions get better, he shows progression every week like Kevin Stefanski said, then I think you're in a good boat. And there's obviously the entire other consideration to like, does Kevin Stefanski return? Right? That's still a big question up in the air. Like Kevin Stefanski's agents, there's rumors that are swirling that Stefanski would be interested in college openings. You don't just hear that out of the blue. Their agents are pushing that out there for a reason, right? It's because that they don't feel safe about his job security in Cleveland after what the couple seasons he's had. So it makes you wonder if they have a brand new coach in there. If Shedeur Sanders, this is his audition right now, that new coach, will they be happy with a guy like Shedeur Sanders as their QB1 of the future? But either way, I think they have to give him a full route. He shouldn't, if he's healthy, he should play every single snap on offense, including 2-point conversions.
Including 2-point conversions. Yeah, the Stefanski wrinkle is very interesting because I remember a few years ago when Cleveland made that playoff push with Flacco and being like, yo, this Stefanski guy is the real deal. Like, he's going to turn this program around, and they still haven't quite got over the hump. Looking at Shedeur Sanders and bringing that up, I do wonder if Stefanski's, got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, then this isn't going to be the case. But is there an element to this that, maybe Stefanski doesn't necessarily want Shedeur to shine too early? I know this is a negative viewpoint, okay? But they waited forever to draft him. They waited forever to put him on the field. I feel like Stefanski's going to have certainly a rooting interest that, well, we were right in the fact that he wasn't ready yet. We were right in the fact that if we put him out there, it was going to take a little bit to come up to speed. I'm not saying that they're going to like explicitly call plays for Shedeur to fail because obviously they want to succeed on some level, but I wonder if there's going to be like they're tanking. You don't necessarily want him to look like Tom Brady right out the gates because it makes you look bad because you waited to play him. Don't sleep on the fact that Shedeur might be better than his stats show the rest of this season. It's just a little tin hat for you.
The biggest thing that I take away from the whole Shedeur Sanders, Kevin Stefanski, Cleveland Browns thing is that there are no ties between Stefanski and Shedeur Sanders when it comes to, job security. This wasn't Stefanski's guy. Remember, he fell crazy in the NFL draft. He was projected to be a top 5 pick, and he goes, what, in the 4th round? It was insane, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously, he's not tied to Kevin Stefanski. So if Stefanski tries to push that narrative, if Shedeur Sanders steps up and is that guy, that doesn't mean that Stefanski's safe. That might mean, okay, we need to go get a better head coach to surround Shedeur Sanders and the supporting cast. So, yeah, this offseason can be really interesting for the Cleveland Browns this year, no doubt about it. You want to continue to talk interesting here on Marv and Rauh in the morning? I think we probably should do that. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below. We are always building and continuing here. This is going to be fun. We're here every single weekday for the foreseeable future until the asteroid hits the earth. Okay, so that's what we're doing here on Marv and Rauh in the morning. We talked about the Indianapolis Colts yesterday. We talked about the upsetting injury of Daniel Jones rupturing his Achilles and being out for the season and asking, is the Indianapolis Colts in trouble? And of course they're in trouble. They are definitely in trouble, starting off their season 7-1 and potentially might finish the year out of the playoffs. And we talked about how Riley Leonard is going to probably be the answer because he came in during the game. Now we're hearing that Riley Leonard is also injured. There's also issues with Riley Leonard. So who do you turn to? It's not Ghostbusters, no, but it might be a ghost of Colts past, and that's Phillip Rivers. He turned 44 yesterday, and Adam Scheffler reports with Daniel Jones out for the year and Riley Leonard, which is currently, quote, week for week with a strained knee ligament. That sounds a lot worse than week to week, to be honest with you. The Colts are going to work out quarterback Phillip Rivers today. And first of all, 44 years old. Are you kidding me? He hasn't played in, almost half a decade. He's going to come on back. This is a fact. He hasn't played in 5 NFL seasons. Do you know how I know that without actually looking at stats? He is currently a NFL Hall of Fame finalist. You have to be out of the NFL for 5 years. If he comes back and plays one snap, his entire clock resets and he for getting in the Canton. We won't see him potentially get in the Canton until 2031. If you're 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, who has, who is literally getting ready to film the next sequel of Cheaper by the Dozen with all the kids he has, are you ready? Are you ready to come back and play for the Indianapolis Colts?
Well, by my count, he's going to be the second grandpa to be a quarterback in the NFL. So, I mean, there is a little bit of road work paved for him. I believe the other one was Brett Favre in like 2010. So, I mean, that's a pretty good quarterback there. I am curious to see what Phillip Rivers would be capable of. I'm not doubting him at all, but it has kind of been a while since he played. And I would say even in the time since Phillip Rivers was a quarterback, the style of the NFL has changed quite a bit. Like there is going to be a bit of a learning curve as far as how the NFL is played out. Like you want to look at the bigger picture, like a wider range all the way back to like when Tom Brady was kind of the man. How does football look compared to then? That's a huge change. Obviously 5 years isn't quite as grandiose, but Rivers is going to come in. They're going to do this whole workout and they're going to really see if it fits. I don't know if you're the Colts, I don't think this is your play. I'm going to be honest. I mean, they saw success with Joe Flacco, right? Just a few years ago came in for the Colts and like that's an older quarterback, but I don't think you go the 44-year-old route here. I think you grab someone off of waivers that was, undrafted or whatever and give them a chance, try to find a diamond in the rough. I don't think you patch a Band-Aid on it this way.
The one name that comes to mind when you think of super old quarterbacks, I think the oldest quarterback to ever play in the NFL was George Blanda. I think that's the guy that was the oldest one. But you're right. I don't think this is the play. I mean, if you're trying to get yourself to the playoffs, and obviously that is the goal, you don't have any draft capital in the first couple of rounds to tank the rest of the way and get yourself a better capital asset. Like that doesn't do anything for you. You want to get to the playoffs. You want to hit that check in the box and continue moving forward with this franchise. I don't think Phillip Rivers is the right move. Do you know what I think is the right move? I think the right move is either one or two options. They're both on the exact same team. Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston to ask for their unconditional release and sign with the Indianapolis Colts. That's what I think is the right move.
I mean, I am a personal subscriber to watching Jameis every single season. Anytime he becomes the starter, I become one of the biggest fans of that team. So I would not be upset with Jameis Winston from a personal level, but also I think he's one of the better quarterbacks out there. And Russell Wilson certainly has shown that he's capable of still being a decent quarterback. I wouldn't say necessarily a high level quarterback, but if you're Indianapolis, you're not going to get a high-level quarterback at this time in the year. You're not going to end up with I guess Phillip Rivers could end up being like Tom Brady, be the craziest return of all time. And I also think this thought just popped in my head. If Phillip Rivers does come back, he's going to be damn good. Like, he's not going to come back and reset his clock if he's like 50-50. From his standpoint, he's only going to come back if he's legitimately got it. So I guess if you're the Colts, there's that to be excited about. But I think that they have to set their level of expectation to one where you're probably not going to find your next career quarterback. I mean, if you do, great, but I don't think that that's in the cards right now.
Well, I think Daniel Jones is the future. I think you just need a stopgap for the next 4 games and potentially 5 or 6 if you can make the postseason. But yeah, the more and more we continue to talk about it, Jameis Winston on the Colts would be fun. I mean, what's that that quote he says? The horse is prepared for battle. He would literally sign with a horse team. Like he
It'd be
would be the
perfect.
horse prepared for battle. Like this is perfect. Why is this not the story? Why is Jameis Winston not being asked for a release and going to be the horse prepared for battle? Like this is a perfect moment. What are we doing here? If it happens, you've heard it here first on Marv and Rauh in the morning that Jameis Winston should be the Colt. But there's a couple other quarterbacks in the league that would just make sense. Obviously, Russell Wilson, we saw him fade out. We saw that happen with the Giants, and their season's over. Marcus Mariota, their season's over. Jaden Daniels obviously having issues, but he's been up and down. There's a couple other quarterbacks inside of this entire league that could probably be like, hey, I want to get one more shot at it, but this team is just completely, shot. Give me one more go at it. The ones that come to mind right away are definitely the two in New York. Of course, you can always bring up Joe Flacco too. Joe Flacco went to the start of the Browns, went to the Bengals to fill in for Joe Burrow. He knows how to fill in the teams. He could be a guy that goes to Indianapolis. Joe Flacco would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think this is an opportunity where you can kind of, I don't know if would you go so far as to say like a Baker Mayfield type of situation where you can come on as like he did with the LA Rams and just light it up really quick. Maybe you don't have to like win a playoff game, but certainly show that you can come into a system and you can be moldable and be successful, and then you can kind of revitalize your career. I wonder if that's something where this is an opportunity that you have a decent team around you. Obviously, this team started really, really strong. And the expectations, I don't know if are ridiculously high. I think you can come in and kind of just let it fly, be yourself, and end up having a revitalizing career moment. I feel like that'd be pretty sick for one of these young guys.
Yeah, 100%. If you could find that, there's no doubt about that. It's not like you can trade. This is December 9th. It's not like you can make any trades. You got to ask for either make a release or you have to ask for unconditional release, all that good stuff. Then you got to go through waivers. But if I'm any team right now that is below the Colts in waivers, Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson or one of these other guys, Joe Flacco, go on waivers, I'm not claiming them. I'm not doing that. Even if it's to try and like block out them from going to the Colts. I'm just not doing that. I'm not wasting that spot. I'm letting that go through. And the Colts are probably in the middle of the pack when it comes to waivers right now because of their recent losing streak. Phillip Rivers is the quarterback that last played in the playoff game for the Colts. I think that's the reason why they're going back and they're trying to go back to the well, see if it works. But I think there are better options out there. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, a couple of names that I'm just looking at right here, like Sam Ehlinger, Taylor Heineke, Trevor Siemian, even Tannehill or Hendon Hooker, all names that like obviously Tannehill's a little older, but all those other names I think fit into that mold of haven't really seen the success we thought they could have yet, other than maybe Heineke.
Heineke got Washington to a playoff game when they were
that
not
run with Washington was very magical. I was a fan of that. I actually built a specific like graphic of like a Heineken logo with Heineke's name on it because I was such a big fan of what he was doing over there. But all of those guys, I feel like, are in that boat where you could jump in, you can see success, and you can get your name put right back on the map. Like, I don't think that this is a job that is going to be really tough to fill. Like, I do think that this Colts team is a desirable location. It's just going to be from the Colts perspective. Can they find somebody who will do what they need them to do?
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. Taylor Heineke, by the way, Old Dominion legend. So don't think I don't know the lore of Taylor Heineke.
Love that guy.
I am excited to see what happens here because something obviously has to happen. They're not gonna, they got to do something here. And Phillip Rivers, if he's the guy, great, because maybe the playoff game sponsored by AARP. I mean, that'd be fun, So a lot of cool things that can be opened here. NFL open to marketing opportunities. Obviously, that's the case for sure.
Yeah.
Let's switch over. Let's talk a little college football because that's always fun, right? College football in full swing right now. We're getting ready for the college football playoffs. And one team that's not in the college football playoffs, we talked about this yesterday, but it's continuing to get more juicy. Notre Dame, not in there. And they not only did they not make the college football playoffs, they opted out of their bowl game. And then more drama ensues. And this is interesting. I think we should play a little back and forth in this one here. Okay. Notre Dame's relationship with ACC seemed beyond repair because the ACC was obviously going against them, trying to get Miami in. And, oh, by the way, the reason, if you full context here, Notre Dame is not a part of the ACC for football, but they do have a relationship with the ACC for other sports and conferences. But for football, they are an independent team. They are not in a conference. Now they do have some sort of relationship with scheduling where they do schedule and play stuff. Got it. Okay, good. They were obviously rooting in their social medias, were all out pushing Duke, pushing Miami to get to the college football playoffs. No Notre Dame there. Notre Dame is mad, saying, hey, we want our cake and eat it too. Not only are we an independent, but ACC, you should be batting for us against your actual ACC football opponents. Is Notre Dame in the wrong here for saying that the relationship with the ACC is beyond repair, or do they actually have a point here?
No, I think Notre Dame is just out of line, like consistently over the last few days. They are just, it seems like making the moves that are maybe the least popular or like the most, soft, just, I don't know, wimpy's the word that comes to mind, but cowardice moves, consistent. I don't know what their deal is. Like, this does not make Notre Dame look good. It makes them look like this kid, like literally who took their ball and went home. I don't understand the whole situation Notre Dame is even like angling here. Like, just buck up, get in a conference and play ball. Like, I don't know. What are we? I guess because they technically do have advantages to being independent, and they're going to be treated differently if you look explicitly at the top 12 ranking for next season. Like, that right there is enough to show that maybe they have some grounds to act like this, and we've put ourselves in this situation. But yeah, I don't, and this will be forgotten, but right now I don't feel like Notre Dame is putting themselves in a favorable position. They look bad, I think, through this whole thing.
I've seen things on social media making arguments against Notre Dame and for, obviously. One thing that came to mind that really made me think is, people are talking about obviously comparing Miami and Notre Dame to each other, and that's always a fun one to compare to because, of course, the old school Catholics versus convicts conversation back from 50 years ago at the 70s. And somebody came up with this conversation and this narrative, and it makes a lot of sense if you look back and actually look at the storylines behind it. In the 70s, Notre Dame dominated that rivalry. In the 80s, it started to change, and Miami started to take over, and then Notre Dame canceled the series. Notre Dame doesn't make the college football playoffs and says, nope, we're taking our ball and going home. Is this just who Notre Dame is? Is if they don't get their way, they just walk away?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I actually didn't know that. So throwing that in there only adds to the fire. I didn't that's literally, I hate to say it, but on brand for Notre Dame. I think the question is now, what is the ideal situation for the Fighting Irish? Like, how can we bow down to the Chrome Domes and get them what they want? Do you want to be the 1 seed every single year, or do they actually want to be, like a 5 seed where they get to play at home in the first round of the playoffs? I don't know, but
I need more caffeine before I hear you say bow down to Chrome Dome again. That's one, but I will say that. My God. No, honestly, that's interesting. Well, do they join a conference? Like, is that something they need to do? Like,
what does that benefit them?
Right. That's the biggest question. Like, will it?
They're not going to do something that's for the good of college football, right? They're going to do what's for the best for the Fighting Irish, Irish. And
right now, so you need more caffeine too. See, now, I think that with the new way that college football is going, it's either make the playoffs or bust. And I think in the grand scheme of things, although as a fan I don't like it because I like bowl games, I like the Army Navy game, I like the Holy War, I like the Iron Bowl, I like these rivalries meaning so much. In the grand scheme of things, I think that's the right move as a program to focus on playoffs or bust. When you come to Notre Dame, obviously the biggest reason they have sat outside of a conference, at least in the last couple of years, has been obviously for the betterment of them. And then, of course, with money. NBC has given them a deal where they have a standalone deal, and you can't get that probably if they were in a different conference. If they were in the ACC by themselves, they would have to have some sort of agreement with ESPN, with, of course, the ESPN media deal. So I don't think if they go to a conference, I don't think they go to the ACC now. And this also makes you wonder, like, outside of football, does Notre Dame back out and go elsewhere to conferences? I think this has spiraling effects that could change some of the non-revenue sports when it comes to Notre Dame. Do they join another conference? We've seen our buddy, of Locked On Big 12, Drake Toll, talk about Notre Dame going to the Big 12. I think that's definitely speculation. I think if they go to any conference, this is a huge brand. Everybody wants to see Notre Dame when it comes on TV. Like, that's a huge brand, right?
Oh, yeah.
They either go to the Big Ten, they go to the SEC. The Big Ten makes the perfect sense for Notre Dame in just a grand scheme of things, where they sit in South Bend, Indiana. I mean, they are a Big Ten location team. It makes perfect sense for them to go there. And if they went there, man, that conference would be nuts. But I think they have just as good of a chance at making the college football playoffs than they do right now, if not better.
I would disagree at the chance. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with what their record would be, but just knowing that they're probably going to play a bunch of ACC opponents, and if they may make the top 12 they're in, I would say that that's probably a better situation for them. As far as you said something in there like they play in the Big Ten country, and I do agree with that. Do you think they play Big Ten style of football? I feel like they play closer to a Big 12 style of football.
And what is that? High-powered offense and no defense?
Yeah, that's how it feels to me. Now, granted, I haven't watched a ton of Notre Dame games, but actually the other thought that I had and I'll let you kind of think on that, is if the Big 12 were to make this work with Notre Dame, I do think that the Big 12 would have to kind of shell out a little bit of dough. I think they're going to have to sweeten the deal a little bit because Notre Dame they're in a position where they don't have to conform to what the Big 12 wants. They can do whatever they want. So they can go to the SEC, they can go to the Big 10, they can stay independent. And if they do join the Big 12 is going to make it worth their time because Notre Dame is going to make the Big 12 extremely relevant. And it will put the conference as a whole more in line with the Big 10 and the SEC. For the last few years, we've had the argument of where is the Big 12 at in comparison to these other conferences. If Notre Dame joins, if they were able to get the Fighting Irish inside the conference, the rest of all of college football is now going to respect the Big 12, literally just because of the fact that one team is in there. It doesn't matter who else is in there. They're going to say, well, we should probably look at maybe giving the Big 12 two bids because they don't want to have the chance where Notre Dame doesn't get in. Like they're gonna give the Big 12 a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, if you will.
I'd be willing to make the argument that if Notre Dame joined the Big 12, and I think this is a long shot for the record, because I think that if they were to join a conference, they would join in quote unquote the Power 2, because there's obviously a tier when it comes to Big 10 SEC compared to the other ones right now in the Big 12 and the ACC. If Notre Dame joined the Big 12, which would be a huge win, the Big 12, if they have an opportunity to do so, should throw every single egg at that basket of Notre Dame. If Notre Dame was a Big 12 conference, all-member conference team, you would no longer see Power 2 and then the other two of the Power 4. It would be Power 3, and it would be the end of the ACC. When the media deal ends in a few years, Notre Dame, if they really wanted to get to ruin the relationship with the ACC beyond repair, this would be how you make it beyond repair. You would literally be able to destroy the ACC from the outside by joining the closest conference to them and making them more of a prestigious conference in the Big 12, 100%.
So you saying that makes me, it just makes me go down the road of what this could look like. If Notre Dame joins the Big 12, which would effectively kill the ACC, you're going to see...
They'd actually finally have to play BYU, though. Are they willing to do that?
True. That is a lot to ask. But let's just play this hypothetical. Let's just for a few seconds play this hypothetical where now the ACC is probably, with that media deal running up, going to see teams like Miami, Clemson, even Louisville, Syracuse, Florida State. They're all going to leave. Like whether it's the Big 10, the Big 12, or the SEC, it's going to be liquidated, right? If Notre Dame were to join the Big 12, and then you are left with a Power 3. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to argue that that's the wrong direction. As good as Notre Dame being in the Big 12 is for the Big 12, it's bad for college football because then you end with a Power 3 conference. And I think we probably need to be more in the direction of like 8-10 team conferences as opposed to 3 20 team or whatever, with 24 team conferences. Like I don't think that's the right direction for college ball as a whole.
Oh yeah. Logic has gone out the window. I mean, we have Stanford in the
so
ACC.
Sad.
Right. So logic has gone out the window. It's all about money. And I agree with you. That's what it should be. It will never be that way again.
No,
I think we are closer to going to that Super League, or we're closer going to the 3 leagues, as we mentioned, with the Big 12, SEC, Big 10. And then you have a playoff system where they completely forget about everybody else. And they say, you know what? We're just going to do a 12-team playoff system where we take the 3 best from the Big 10, 3 best from the SEC, or 3 best from, or I guess 4 best from each of those 3 conferences, and just run it. And then whoever wins. Like I could see that happening a lot closer.
That makes too much sense. There's no controversy there. It's got to be 4-4 and 2 and 2 auto bids.
And
the Big 12
letting
doesn't
like
get
a
full
random
four.
team like UMass, Julian. And like, yeah, that would be just
Because
the
they have
random.
an equal chance at winning the title.
Yeah, insane. They had the same amount of chance of winning the title than Texas did heading into the college football playoff weekend this year. So selection Sunday.
Technically.
So, yeah. I digress. I digress. Let's keep it up here. Continue on going with college football because the Final Four announced for the Heisman Trophy. I think this is a little juicy as well. We'll start with Notre Dame. Notre Dame made one in here. Julian Love, running back, the only non-quarterback making it as a Heisman Trophy finalist. Jeremiah Love is insane. He is very good. Indiana quarterback Nando Mendoza, Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia, and Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin were all named finalists for the good old 91st annual Heisman Memorial Trophy. I'm sure you remember your first Heisman Trophy Memorial back 91 years ago. Nick, I mean, this is just an interesting time for college football. First off, the thing that comes to my mind right away is, of course, this is not the best player of the year award anymore. This is usually the best offensive player award. You don't usually get defensive players. We've only had, 2 defensive Heisman trophies in the world ever. Jacob Rodriguez, I think, deserved to be in New York for Texas Tech for what he did this year. I think he is the best player in college football. But, of course, that's just not how it works when it comes to the Heisman Trophy anymore. The fact that he wins the Buckus, good enough for me. I'll take that. That's my only gripe with this one. I think Jacob Rodriguez for Texas Tech is the best player in college football, period. But when you look at some of these other players here, the 4 that are actually in New York, who is your favorite? I think it's going to come down to Mendoza or Pavia.
Who's my favorite? Love by a long shot. I love Love's style of play. His celebration is so just unique and perfect. Like, I don't know. Everything about Love, I'm a huge fan. And I'll throw this stat at you. I don't know if you've seen this. A running back has won the Heisman every year ending in 5. Derrick Henry in 2015, Reggie Bush 2005, Eddie George 1995, Bo Jackson 1985, Archie Griffin 1975, and I can go back for another 4 decades. Wild wrinkle in there. So I would love to see Love win this for that, for him, for what Notre Dame has been through. As much as they've handled this the wrong way, it does sting for all of those fans. But as far as who do I think will win it, it's hard not to pick Julian Sayin because he's at a huge name like Ohio State. I don't think Indiana's getting the benefit of the doubt because they don't have the market at this time. Like, I do think on some level this is a popularity contest. Me personally, I was a big Boise State running back last year. Not I can't think of what his name was. Ashton Genty. I was an Ashton Genty guy last season. I felt like it was pretty clear, but that's not what ended up happening. It was kind of a popularity contest there. Fernando Mendoza has had a phenomenal year, but you could definitely point to a few points where it's like, I don't know if this is a strong enough case. But if you're asking who I want to win it, it is Jeremiah Love all the way.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting stat that every year ending with 5 has been a running back. I did not know that. I mean, he has a strong case. He's 4th in the nation in rushing yards with over 1,300 yards. You know, he's got 18 rushing scores, which is 3rd in the country. He surpassed Jerome Bettis's touchdown record at Notre Dame, something that has been around since 1991 because he had 21 touchdowns this year. I mean, very incredible games. I mean, and he's good. He's very good. He's very electric. He's exciting. He rushed for over 100 yards 6 times, including a Notre Dame stadium record and season best of 228 and against a win over, it wasn't a cupcake win. It was a win over USC. And, you know, he's got some really good wins on the season. 171 yards against 8 carries against Syracuse, an ACC rival. I guess that relationship's ruined. And then, of course, career high 3 rushing records, 157 against Purdue. I'm going to be honest with you, though. If I'm going out just predicting the vote, I think he finishes 3rd.
Yeah. I mean, if Genty couldn't win it last season, I just don't see Love winning it. It's a bigger name. It's a bigger brand, but it's not better play necessarily. The only argument is that he's playing tougher opponents, you know, like USC and Navy, Boston College. Like, it's not even honestly that much tougher. And against Miami and Texas A&M, 1 touchdown combined and 120 yards. It is what it is, you know, averaging between those 2 games, probably around 3.6-ish yards per carry. It's just not really going to turn a lot of heads, especially when you see what Genty did last season, had multiple 6 touchdown games. So I would love for him to win it. I would love for him to walk away with it. But my guess is I don't think Pavia is going to get in. I think as much as I hate the popularity contest, his name is not where it's supposed to be for him to win this. And I don't know if Fernando Mendoza is a big enough name. I'm going to lean Julian Sayin here.
Wow.
I hate that we're not even talking ball though. That's what sucks. We're literally talking about who has the best brand image and the numbers to support it. It's not literally like
See,
it's not
I'm a
averages.
complete different boat from you right now. Then I like that we're having this conversation. I think for people who hate the brands and love the players are actually going to win here. The two big brands in Notre Dame and Ohio State are going to finish third and fourth. I think Sayin finishes fourth.
Wow.
I'm going to go. I think Mendoza wins the Heisman. I think
I
it's
hope
going to
he
go to
does.
Mendoza, and
I hope he does.
And I think Pavia finishes second. I think it goes Mendoza, then Pavia, Indiana, and Vanderbilt as the 1 and 2. Who would have thought in 2025, Indiana, a team that has more losses than any other college football team in the history of college football ever, is the number 1 seed in college football and has the Heisman Trophy winner potentially. And then on the other side, your runner-up is Vanderbilt. A Vanderbilt. We're not talking baseball. We're not talking. This isn't Dansby Swanson. We're talking about Diego Pavia. Insane. I know. I think it's going to go to Mendoza. One, have you ever heard him talk? Have you ever heard him talk ball? He's
smart.
He's going to be a great quarterback in the NFL because he sounds like he does the prep. It sounds like he does the work behind the scenes, and he is really excited. I was not impressed with him last year when he was with Cal, or 2 years ago, I guess, when he was with Cal. I didn't think he was anything to really write home about. I didn't think like, oh man, this is the guy that you have to get in the transfer portal. Like this is just when he went to Indiana, I was like, okay, well, I guess that's just a Big Ten pickup. We'll see how it goes. I wasn't really thinking much about Indiana out there. Honestly, I was more comparing Indiana to Rutgers than I was comparing Indiana to Ohio State after them signing Mendoza. Obviously, Cignetti obviously helps that conversation. But what he has done over the last couple of years and the growth that he has done at Indiana is super impressive, and he's going to be really fun to watch on Sundays, as long as he doesn't go to the Jets, because that's where people go to die.
As a Patriots fan, or as not, well, yes, as a Patriots fan, but more as a Cyclones fan, I can agree with you there. Brees Hall, rough situation. No, I do love that for Mendoza. Like if he comes away with it, I think he deserves it, and I just think it's going to be a battle of the stuff that's not fair. Like we're not talking numbers; it's a popularity contest. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I hope he wins it. I want Fernando Mendoza because I mean, just he's so real. I think that's part of it for me. Like when you watch the post game pressers and stuff, he's just a guy out there. Like there's not a ton of like coach speak and fake, team whatever. Like those are the right answers, and I think that there is a time and a place for those, and he throws those in there too. But it's just the way that he says his answers. You can feel it's just some guy out there playing ball.
Yeah, I'm absolutely a big fan of it. Do you think there's any chance that Pavia sneaks in? I mean, the fact that they didn't make the college football playoffs, I think, hurts. I will say, if you're a fan, if you're a writer and you're sick of all the drama, if you're sick of the Notre Dame drama, if you're sick of the fact of them talking about BYU not making it or Alabama that should have not made it, and of course Notre Dame drama, Vanderbilt not making it, although they think they had a strong case. Head coach Clark Lee was like, "I'm not mad. We were a 10-2 SEC team." He kind of stood his ground and said, look, that's just the way it fell this year. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season that a 10-2 SEC team wouldn't make the college football playoffs, I would have thought you're crazy. But that's just the way it was. We can only blame ourselves. We lost 2 football games. That is the way a head coach is supposed to talk moving forward. If I'm a recruit and I'm thinking about going to Vanderbilt, and that's what I heard from a guy that just got an extension at a team like Vanderbilt, who was a team that was hardly winning any games just 4 years ago, I want to play for that guy. So if you're a writer or a voter that is sick of that drama and you're stuck between maybe 2 players right here and you see that name Vanderbilt, you might lean towards picking Pavia.
I mean, I love the perspective there. I love the theory, but I've seen enough AP voters ballots to, I mean, remember the whole UCF or USF debacle we were dealing with earlier this season?
USC? USC, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I was talking USF with the Florida game and that whole where they were not even ranked after they had beaten.
I think it was a USC writer that made the vote. I think that's what happened.
Yes.
All the USs, yeah.
That's right. Yes, it was the USC writer. Yes, I remember her. She came on the show and was like, she did not say the right things. And then, yes, you're right about that. But I was talking about the USF football team. And just to me, it's like, I don't understand how you can have that position and just not watch the games or at least even check the scores whatever. I guess it is what it is. But we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. I believe in the system, but I also don't trust it at the same time.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's a good way to look at it. Let's wrap up today's show. Talk a little college hoops. Yesterday we asked who's the best of the best, who deserves the number 1 seed. Well, the AP Top 25 poll did come out, and I think we were right. And honestly, we were talking about the top 4. The top 4 moved up. Iowa State was the biggest mover. They moved up to 4 in the country, moved up 6 spots. Arizona takes the number 1 spot. Michigan moves to 2. Duke with 3. We talked about all 4 of those teams just last week, or just yesterday, excuse me. Arizona, I don't know if they deserved the number 1 spot. They just won it by a couple, 20 points, but it's too early to tell. I still think Michigan's the best team in the country. But let's talk the best of the rest right now. You gave a crazy stat to me the other day talking about the AP Top 12. What was that?
So this is since 2004, this statistic is out. And I guess I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to kind of go off the dome here. Since 2004, every national champion in this week 6 AP poll has been ranked in the top 12. And I wonder if a team like Illinois that's at 13 could kind of break that, but I also don't really know if anyone outside of the top 4 is capable of winning a title. Arizona, Michigan, Duke, Iowa State, I think are your front runners right now. You're going to have teams like Gonzaga that are in that conversation. I don't ever trust Purdue in the postseason. And then at 12, you have Alabama, Louisville 11, BYU 10 is a name that a school that I would maybe look at, but Michigan State feels out of place. Houston feels out of place in comparison. Obviously, Houston a very, very good team, but we're looking at those top 4 as up until this point in the season. I'd like to see more from Houston. How do you feel about those top 12 teams? Are there any that feel out of place to you? Or are there any in the top 25 that aren't in that top 12, like the 13 to 25 range that you think could win it?
No, I think that the top 12, when you look at them right now, I think the AP did a really good job at voting these. I think we'll see what happens with like teams like Louisville if they fall even more, and if Purdue falls even more. Obviously, they have to make a statement comeback win, or if it's just the fact that Iowa State is that good. I'm interested to see. We already talked about the top 4 teams. I'm interested to see what happens with a team like UConn, who obviously had a terrible, and I wouldn't say terrible, but it was a loss to Arizona. They only lost by 4. But it felt like a game that they should have won. That's what I felt when I watched that game. UConn should have won that game. We're talking about Arizona as the number 1 team in the country right now, and their only loss of the year is a 4-point win that I think they should have won against Arizona. They already have a good win against BYU. They're going to play Florida tonight, and I think that's going to be a really epic game. Florida, you know what? That's probably a team outside the 12. Florida, national champion right now. They're currently 18th in the country. If anybody, I think, out of all those teams that are outside the top 12, that could make a run at it, I think Florida could. I mean, they're not the same Florida Gator team they were last year, and by any stretch of imagination, I think they lost to TCU, but I think they could figure it out. Todd Golden knows what he's doing.
They did lose to TCU. Obviously, the 1-point loss to Duke is pretty solid. I mean, obviously, could have lost that by a lot more. So there's that to be hopeful about. But yeah, I look forward to that Connecticut and Florida game. I think that'll be really telling for both of these teams. I agree with you. I brought up all those teams that I don't think are really in a great spot in the top 12. Connecticut isn't out of that. Like they're still kind of in there. They're almost in a gray zone for me. Like I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they are UConn. There's something there with Danny Hurley too. Like, I mean, it's just a mentality thing. I would say maybe if there's anyone outside the top 12, I would lean almost Texas Tech. But that just feels wrong to me just because I know of what they're capable of doing in the Big 12. I think Florida has fallen off a little bit. UConn is definitely in there. I would give them a nod. But I think this top 12 is pretty true. I'm looking at the top 4 personally. I think those 4 teams are just the best right now.
I think we're going to start adding in. I think we start after today's game. I think UConn, if and only if Terrace Reed Jr. plays, he's a game time decision. If Terrace Reed Jr. plays and they take down Florida handily, I think we start adding UConn to the conversation. Terrace Reed Jr. did not play in that game against Arizona when they lost. In the game against BYU when they won, he had 21 points. He was electric. He shot 8 for 10 for the field. He is a very good player. That player, he is UConn's best player. But when he's not on the court, they are a completely different team. If he plays tonight against Florida, I think we start to see UConn kind of move themselves into that top 4 conversation. Personally, that's where I sit.
I don't hate that either. And looking at their schedule, this is kind of the advantage that UConn has being in the Big East. They're going to play Florida. They're going to play Texas. And then they don't really play anybody but St. John's the rest of the season, right? They play like Creighton, I guess, Villanova. Georgetown could be pretty good this year, but
Seton
you're not
Hall
going to
looks
be
pretty good.
Seton Hall. I'm looking at it from the perspective of look at my back wall. Like they're not going to be playing BYU, Kansas, Houston. Like even in the top 25 here, like Texas Tech. You're just not having that level of competition, which is Arizona. Like I think the Big 12 weathers itself down a little bit throughout the course of the season. They kind of get ready for battle throughout their Big 12 conference play, whereas UConn makes their case early, and then we revisit in March or whatever it is when it's time to watch them play the big dog. So I have a hard time really watching myself the rest of the season keep UConn in the front of mind. But after this Florida game, after this Texas game, and then a couple of other games in there, they could persuade me to like, hey, keep an eye on this UConn team, watch them play a few games. They could stick around this conversation for sure.
They're not the Big 12, and I'll give you that. And they're not the SEC, and that's probably the two best conferences in college basketball now. Obviously, honestly, Big 10 might have some conversation this year, too. There's a lot of really good Big 10 teams. But there are 6 Big East teams in the top 60 in KenPom. So I think they're a lot better of a conference than I think you're giving credit to right now. So just maybe put a little respect on the Big East, okay? They are on the East Coast.
Maybe it's my personal experiences with UConn that I just don't give them the benefit of the doubt. But the Big East is definitely a decent conference. It's no Big 12, it's no SEC, but it's also better than a lot of them out there. So you're right. I should probably pump the brakes on that. That's all.
In the eyes of KenPom, UConn is 7th, Florida is 14th. So it should be a top 15 KenPom matchup for tonight's matchup for the big game of the night. That should be really fun. Speaking of, while we're just at KenPom, Michigan, Iowa State, Gonzaga, Duke, Arizona, number 1 team in the country, according to AP poll, is only 5, according to KenPom. And I think that makes more sense than what the AP vote does. We talked about that yesterday. I think we all agree Michigan's the best team in the country right now. I know you have stuff on your background that says otherwise, but Iowa State is at 2. I mean, I don't think you could be upset at that at all either.
Not on KenPom. Yeah, I wasn't really sitting here banging the drum for Iowa State at 1. I was shocked that they came in at 4.
I knew they were going to be the biggest movers, man. I knew it.
They made a huge jump from 10 to 4. But I don't really care, to be honest. Like, it's just an AP poll. It is what it is. Honestly, I mean, we watched Iowa State climb to 2 last season, and I'm not saying it got to their heads, but they fell off a little bit. It was injury, I think, based, but it was kind of ugly. So I'm okay with them being lower for the team's perspective. I was just shocked that is it like they can't let them move too much? They can't let them go from 10 to 2. It's too shocking. Who has Iowa State played this season that they haven't looked really good against? It's just that they haven't played enough people, I guess. So I mean, Arizona's a very, very good team though. Like that's the thing is if you want to argue them at 1 or 4 or 5, like I genuinely think the top 4 could probably go in just about any order. Michigan probably deserves to be 1. And then from 5 to, maybe 10, you're going to have a little bit of movement. I think it's kind of in tiers right now for me is how I'm looking at it. I'm still hung up on the Iowa State thing, but it is what it is.
Latest ESPN bracketology came out just a few hours ago since we've discussed. Arizona, Duke, Iowa State, and Michigan all hold the number 1 seeds at the moment in the latest bracketology, but he gave the top overall seed to, guess who? Michigan. So we are all on page with that as seeing them as the best team in the country. Just to wrap it up while we'll talk about it, we're talking about the best of the rest. Well, on the bubble is always a good thing to talk about. He's got Ohio State, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and NC State as the last 4 buys. Last 4 in, got a couple of Big East teams, Seton Hall, Villanova, VCU, and UCF. So, I mean,
a lot of Big 12 in there. Wow.
Yeah, Big 12, Big East is as some potential Dayton matchups. That could be pretty fun to wrap up this season of March Madness. Let's get out of here. Let's get some caffeine. Let's not talk about chrome domes anymore. I think that's probably smart. And I appreciate everyone listening and talking in here to Marv and Rauh in the morning. We'll be back here tomorrow with another episode, of course, bringing you more morning coverage, everything in the name of sports. Marv, I'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, tomorrow it is.